Welcome to Off Script, a space for honest dialogue, real talk, and biblical clarity. You just never know. This is
Off Script.
Yeah.
Off Script.
All right, everybody. Happy Wednesday and welcome to Off Script. It's Elisha Cash and Tony Cash, and we're here tonight with Off Script. Off Script is exactly what it sounds like, you know. It is a space where we step away from rehearsed answers and we have honest conversation and real dialogue. So this isn't a space for, you know, perfection or perfect answers. It is a space for thought conversation, faith, leadership, finances, and a host of all other things. Tony, tell them a little bit about Off Script.
Well, first of all, I'm super excited to be here, of course, with my amazing host, my wife, who I affectionately call Blue. Off Script is really all about being off script. It's all about understanding that sometimes the questions that people have today are not really something they want a Bible scripture for, but sometimes they just want a raw, authentic answer that solves the issues and the problems they're experiencing today. So Off Script is all about coming off of the perfected script we live every day and ensuring that we get the answer that people really need for the challenges of their lives.
Absolutely, and tonight we're hosting it right here at the Leadership Center in Decatur County, where we are curating conversations. It's our outreach to the community. It is something, the Leadership Center is a new space that we have curated right here for the Leadership Church to bring conversations like this to the community. So we're very excited about Off Script, and we're very excited about the Leadership Center and all the different gatherings and conversations that will come out of tonight, out of the experiences of called Off Script. So this week or this month is Black History. Did you all just roll over and it was February? Like literally we rolled over and it's February. And so we have people in the audience here tonight that are joining us for this conversation because February historically is Black History Month. And so one of the things that we wanted to provide with this off-script platform is a way to embrace Black History Month. And so we're kicking off a series, and tonight is all about the black dollar, okay? The black dollar. You all type it in the chat. If you're watching us tonight, it's what I want to say, not a monologue, but it will be a dialogue. So, throw it in some questions in the chat as we're talking, because we would love to hear some of your feedback as we dive into this content. So as I shared that this month we're honoring Black history, we're moving beyond celebration into understanding strategy. Tonight's conversation centers on the black dollar, where we've been, where we have been, what's happening now, and how Black families can build differently moving forward. And so it's not a shame game type thing, but it is a real conversation. It's an off-script conversation, to be honest. And we're excited to have this honest dialogue. Number one, my husband, he is the financial guru. And so for those of you that have ever watched him, we call ourselves the, financial coach and the financial mentor. So tonight we're just putting on his lens and and asking him some different questions about the history of the black dollar and what does that mean for our community and what does that mean for us today. So let's push it a little deeper. Let's dive in the conversation. You ready to dive in?
I'm ready to dive in.
Okay, all right. We coming in hot tonight. Y'all ready? Right. Okay, so let's just talk about it. When people say black dollar, what are we really talking about? Money coming in, money going out, or money actually doing something after it leaves our hands? Like what does the black dollar mean?
Yeah, so when you talk about things, that's an amazing question, by the way. When you talk about the black dollar, it's really our collective spending power. Yeah, it's also our habits, our access to money. It's also our fears and our history with money. And so, the way I like to look at the black dollar is it's a living organism. And so we've got to figure out, how do we get this living organism to be beneficial to our community? So the black dollar for us is more than just a paper bill or what's in your account, but it's also what allows our community to thrive. And I think as we talk about the black dollar, the real question isn't how much people in the black community make, it's how long does that money stay in our community to make a measurable difference. To me, that's what the black dollar is all about when I think about it. It's not power, it's not a paycheck on a treadmill.
I know we talk a lot about wealth building just personally in our household. Can you talk about why that was the case and why it makes sense at this time? You know, yeah. I'm getting a little tongue-tied tonight, but yeah, just help us understand
Absolutely. That. Well, if you really think about, you know, the black dollar, first of all, the black dollar has been under pressure for a long time, even historically. In other words, when the dollar made it into the house, there were so many things that were needed that it could not also be generational. And so it went for making sure that you had housing, making sure that you were fed, making sure that you were. And so when you think about why this has moved the black dollar from a place where it's crises all the time to where generational opportunities come. So here's one thing that I say. Our dollar has to be impregnated to produce other dollars. And that's the one thing that's not happened. You know, the dollar is being like a single guy and it's not producing anything else, but the dollar needs to be impregnated. And we need to have generations after generations that are living off of that dollar. So the black dollar is important, and it's vital that it does not stop in one generation and ends in a place where it's always just used for crises.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, you know, I grew up in a time where the black dollar was about keeping the lights on, you know. And so for generations, that's just how we approach, you know, what it meant to have the black dollar. It was like, you know, making sure that we had enough money in the household so that we didn't have to rely on government funding. You know, it just meant keeping the lights on and making sure that we sustained, yeah. Right? And so you can't build legacy if every dollar is in emergency mode. So talk a little bit about that because history shapes habits. And so if we start to kind of look at historically, you know, what we have experienced in our community and how we approached, you know, finances and the dollar, you know, let's be real. How did redlining, closed bank doors, and exclusion teach us how to spend, save, and trust or not trust money, you know?
Yeah, when you got to remember something, and here's the thing, that when we couldn't get loans, we couldn't get finance, we couldn't get insurance, we couldn't get fair credit, one of the things that we recognized is that we could only rely on ourselves. The problem with that is, Elisha, once you can only rely on yourself, the institutions that are needed to make sure that that money again is able to be recirculated in a community is not there. And so now that money is walking out of our community, going elsewhere. We relied on what? Cash. We relied on community lending. And we built informal systems that were within our community, but they weren't scalable. You know, they weren't systems that allow us to say 2 or 3 generations later, those monies will be there so that the future generation does not have to do what this generation is doing, which is just relying on, interconnected people in the community, but not have those systems in place.
So I want to slow it down just a little bit, right? Because behavior doesn't just come out of nowhere, all right? So how did segregation, exclusion from banking, and limited access to capital shape how the black dollar circulated in our communities?
Yeah, so the thing about it is, when you think about the black dollar and you think about the fact that the black dollar itself has never been segregated. So they've never had a problem in taking our money. They've never had a problem in accepting the black dollars. It's accepting the black person behind the dollar. So the segregation is not the dollar itself, it's the people behind it. And the problem with that is that people build systems. People build processes. People are the ones that are going to be affected in generations after generations. And when you're not integrated into those built-in systems or not even allowed to build similar systems, then you deal with this issue where you can have $1 million now, but where would that $1 million be 10 years from now if it's not a part of a system that's meant to transfer wealth from one generation to another generation? And that's something we dealt with. We dealt with people who would have wealth in one generation, but it wouldn't be passed down to the next generation because we were not a part of those integrated systems.
Well, then you have some people that kick back to say, well, that's the reason why we need to have our own banks, or we need to have our own institutions of how we funnel money. So what do you say to individuals that come from that perspective?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, nothing is more amazing than by us, for us. So I'm super excited anytime we have that opportunity to have things that are for us, by us. But I also will say that there are systems that are already in place that I think, things like making sure that we don't spend more than that's coming in. Things that's making sure that we're investing a certain percentage of our funds. Things that making sure that we're investing in things like ensuring that we're investing in in assets and not liabilities. Financial education. All of those things are so important to building a foundation that is great to have our own banks. It's great to have our own financial institutions. But one of the greatest issues I see with us is a lack of financial knowledge. And I think if we as a people can get that and then apply that knowledge, because it's important.
Yeah, because I was going to say.
We got to apply that knowledge, then I think that's the start.
Right. Because I think, for a while, people would say, I don't want to get ahead of myself because I'm getting too excited about the knowledge piece. Let me stay on script. Or No, but so let's go here, because I love the fact that we're in Atlanta, which is we have a nickname called the Black Mecca, right? And so pretty much anyone says if you're gonna thrive in any city, it's gonna be in Atlanta. And so let's just bring it home for a moment. Atlanta is often called the Black Mecca because it has one of the highest concentrations of black millionaires and black-owned businesses in the country. What did Atlanta get right that allowed the black dollar to circulate and create wealth here in ways it hasn't in other cities?
Yeah, number one, amazing question. I'll tell you up front, anytime you have people who look like you in powerful positions, such as government, such as in the legal system, because if you think about Atlanta, you'll understand something. People like Mayor Maynard Jackson and the impact, people like himself, Andrew Young, people like Martin Luther King, the impact they had on this city is tremendous because it allowed black people to be in positions to ensure that when legislation was passed, we were a part of that legislation, to make sure that when businesses received grants and awards that we were a part of those grants and awards. So what I think Atlanta got right was they realized that if you're not in place to make the decisions of where the dollars go and where the benefits of this from the city goes, then you're not in place to receive those benefits. So I think that's what Atlanta got right. Why I think it's a great city, because you can look at every level in Atlanta and see someone who looks like you, and then you can probably hope that if they look like you, they'll think about you.
Well, you know, I think what you said is very powerful, because it is definitely something we value. Tonight we have on our Black Leadership Matters shirt, sweatshirt, and swag, because we do understand that having Black leadership does matter, right? And so do you think Atlanta's success came more from access leadership or intentional economic strategy? You talked a little bit about it, but you know, these weren't just average leaders that you named. Talk a little bit about their strategic strategy for creating this ecosystem right here in Metro Atlanta.
Absolutely. One of the things that I'll tell anybody about money is that it's something that if you're not intentional about ensuring that it grows, ensuring that it does whatever you're desiring it to do, then oftentimes you'll just lose control of it. And I kind of look at money like its own entity. And so when you think about our great leaders like Maynard Jackson, Mayor Maynard Jackson did something which was so amazing, that all contracts that were with the city of Atlanta for our airport had to have a certain number of people of color receive those grants and opportunities. And that changed the landscape of this city. And when you start looking at all these mayors who look like people of color, look like you and me, you can thank Mayor Maynard Jackson, who decided that this was going to be the Black Mecca. This was going to be the place where you saw someone who looked like you in government, in positions of authority, in decision-making positions, because that's so important. I think that's what we got right, and that's why I love this great city.
And I think that brings us to leadership again, because money does follow leadership. That's just the way it kind of flows. Like what we're doing here at the Leadership Center, can you talk about the role leadership has played in shifting Black dollar historically, not just in the city of Atlanta, but just historically, how leadership have played or made an impact in that historically?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you always say is that everything rises and falls on leadership. Yeah. And so, you know, when you think about historically how the dollar has, how leadership has played a part historically in the value of the dollar, look no further than the government. Look no further than business, how our legislative leaders, from the presidents to Congress to the Senate, ensures that big, large businesses get tax breaks that you and I would write home and just, we'd be so excited about tax breaks that allowed you to pay zero tax. So many of our large companies rake in billions of dollars, but then they pay zero taxes. I know I would love that contract. I don't know if anybody here would love that contract where you could rake in billions of dollars. Tell me, clap your hand if you love. Yeah, so, I mean, you can rake in billions of dollars and pay zero taxes. So you see that when you're in those leadership roles, you have so much power to bring forth change. And here's the thing about it, we're all leaders in our own homes. And that's the thing that I think that's really important to recognize, that the leaders outside of your home has one impact on your dollar, but then you are a leader in your home and you have an even greater impact on your dollar.
Well, one of the things I like that you pointed us in that direction too, because strategy is so important, and it definitely seems as if those leaders, you know, could see this down the line. Like, okay, we're sowing these type of seeds to make sure that our people benefit beyond of our time being here. And so that means they had vision, right? And so that's so important to have vision for wealth and have vision for your income. And so that brings me to my next question. When we start talking about survival spending has to grow up, when does black dollar stop just surviving and start being deployed?
Well, number one, the black dollar, and if you're at home looking at this, if you're in the studio looking at this, the black dollar will grow up when you grow up.
Okay.
It will mature when you mature. It will become great when you recognize the greatness in you. And that's the thing that I want to just really push, and I thank you for asking that question, that the maturity of the money really is the maturity of the mindset. And so when you think about what's my mindset when it comes to the dollar, when it comes to money, then guess what? That has to be at the forefront of your mind. Intentionality. What do I want the impact of my dollar to be? I'll tell you this. One of the things that's very important to me, people talk about generational wealth. People talk about leaving something for your children's children. But one of the things that's very important to me that I think a lot of people are going to miss in their lifetime. I don't want to leave this earth without my dollar having an impact on my fellow man. And that's why I give. It was someone's dollar who made sure that my mother, who was a 17-year-old girl who was struggling, their dollar made sure that I could eat each month. I've never forgotten the fact that somebody's money came to us every month to make sure my sister, my brother, and I could eat. So that's something that I really think about when it comes to my money. Not just how does it impact my family, but how does it impact the world?
That's great. So if you're watching tonight and anything that we're seeing is impacting you or making you feel uncomfortable, or you want to know more about, drop your comments in the chat. Add something to the conversation. Even if you're in the audience with us today, please feel free to add to the conversation by asking a question. This is off script, so we can go as off script if we need to make sure that we address the black dollar. But I want to shift us over into something that you talked a lot about, in our home, which is diversification for real people. A lot of times there's this myth out when we start talking about, doing something different with finances, like investing and things of that nature, right? And so, when do we as a people start to kind of have a different lens on, making this black dollar expand? Because one thing we know for sure, after the pandemic hit, then there was something called inflation. I mean, it came out of nowhere. I mean, it was one thing to pay, $2.99 for eggs. Then we all of a sudden jumped up. Eggs were $8, and so I was trying to figure out who was making eggs at home. Mm-hmm. And so when you start talking about stretching dollars and how we relook at how we are currently looking at our black dollars, most of our black families, they're thinking about the day-to-day, being able to be functional. And so we're talking about strategy and doing something different with the black dollar. So talk a little bit about inflation and how we make sure that we, stay afloat with that.
Yeah, get you some chicken in your backyard, a farm. Come on. Come on, get you some. How many of us even know about planting a garden? Anybody know about planting a garden? No? Anybody here know? That's what I'm saying. So do you understand that if you just plant a garden, that many of the things that you run to the store for every day, you could just go pluck that tomato out of your garden, pluck that watermelon out of your garden, that cucumber, whatever it is, that cabbage. Can you grow cabbage in the ground?
Yes.
Okay, that collard green. Listen, I'm an old city boy, so y'all got to, I'm a city boy. What I'm saying is, it's the small things that our forefathers did that made sure that inflation didn't impact them, that made a difference. How about eat at home? Okay, I know. I hear the audience groaning. How about eat at home? You know, all of those little small things. And then you go to the big things like putting away savings and then investing. But I really think it's the small things that we as a people have to get back to and realize that, yes, there's inflation, but there's something we can do if we take our financial situation and issue into our own hands and not keep allowing it to be under the control of the government or whomever it is.
Well, I want to go a little deeper because for a long time we were taught that if you work hard, save your money, and stay out of debt, you'll be okay, right? And so why is relying only on income and savings no longer enough for today's economy?
Well, you just said it. Inflation. Really, your money has to multiply or else you're going to really be in a world of financial trouble. I don't know how else to say it. If you, what do they get? What's the savings account interest rate these days? Point what? 0.0. Now, maybe you can get 3 or 4% if you've got $20,000, $30,000 that you can put in the account. But if I got $20,000, $30,000 I can put in the account, then that's a whole different situation. And so really investing and making your money, helping your money multiply is really the most important thing you can do. There are so many ways, small ways that you can start an investment account with Fidelity, Charles Schwab, what is it, TR Pro or something, TI, I don't know what's, you know.
We'll drop some resources.
Yeah, but all these different
Yes.
Investment companies
Yes.
out there. Because if your money doesn't multiply, it ends up being subtracted. And then we know nothing from nothing leaves what? Nothing.
Well, there's this myth out there that says that, you know, investments are more so for higher earners. And so I found that in my research too, or when we're just asking people, you know, how knowledgeable are they with, you know, saving and investments. And so a good bit of people response was, you know, they feel like that those type of saving plans are mostly for, you know, high earners, more so than regular working folk. And so I just want to thank you for, you know, pushing us to do that and kind of breaking that down, because that is very important. And this is exactly why the Leadership Center is so important, because we're bringing, you know, financial literacy to you through this particular platform when it comes to Black history. It's very important for us as a people to kind of know where we kind of started, you know, and then not only that, where we're actually going as a community. So thank you so much. So Tony, before we wrap it up, I want to give you space to leave us a few, you know, a few thoughts, because, you know, people are waving. We got one more minute, and so we're off script tonight, and so give us 30 seconds of a closeout for us, please.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, this was so exciting. I hope that you at home truly enjoyed this content, and we're going to keep bringing this back each week so that you're educated on things like the black dollar. But I want to tell you that I'm super excited about Off Script and what it means to us and the community, what it means to what we're trying to get out to the people, and to remind you that even though we're off script, you got to stay on script with your money. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. If something tonight challenged you, confused you, or made you think differently about money, we want to hear from you. Send us a message on Facebook or DM us. Or matter of fact, you come out and visit us on Sundays at 9:30. We'll be so glad to have you. I'm just glad to have joined Tony tonight on this platform to talk about the black dollar. We'll be right back here next Wednesday. Please feel free to join us and be a part of Off Script. We'd love to have you.
We hope you enjoyed today's segment. Look at the bottom of your screen to connect with the Leadership Center. While you're there, please consider giving. Your support helps us continue real conversations, biblical truth, and real freedom.